our brother Ali had a conversation earlier with brother Turtle Gang. Is out of New York City. I know that's not his like name. That's his brand, I believe. This is a brother that we've been familiar with for some years. Had conversations with the brother in the past. He came on BTP a couple months ago when we were addressing the problematic comments that he and brother Sharif Bey were making about reparations. And brother Ali, he was on Instagram earlier and he heard the brother saying something. So I'm gonna let Ali explain that part, and hopefully the brother will jump on.
Well, okay, so he wasn't saying something out of his mouth, right? He wasn't saying something out of his mouth, right? He wasn't saying something out of his mouth, right? He wasn't saying something out of his mouth, right? What he did was he shared a video of some people from Fox News kind of ridiculing, not kind of, they were ridiculing the reparations task force hearings in California. Right. And, sad part about it is a lot of the people in the hearing sessions who went up to speak on the mics gave them a lot of material to work with. They gave them enough material to work with to actually ridicule these people and to make the whole thing look crazy. Right. We mentioned it the other night. One of them was a couple of them were those Moorish guys. You have some people coming in there with this line of pretending nonsense as if that matters some kind of way. You know what I mean? And, what these news agencies do is they're taking the sound bites of the ridiculous things that folks are saying, and they're making, reels out of that and circulating that stuff. So that's exactly what happened. And so the brother Turtle Gang posted the video from Fox News, right? And understand something. They're all Confederates, right? But Fox News is one of those Confederate stations. We already know who those people are in relationship to our plight in this country and who they've been for the past several years that they've been on as a network. Those people don't have our best interests in mind, and they damn sure don't tell our stories the way that they deserve to be told. None of them do, but definitely Fox News doesn't. So it's a Fox News piece that he posted, and he left a comment. Now, initially, I didn't even watch the video. Right, all I seen was Fox News, and I'm like, okay, yeah, because it's about Joe Biden. It starts with Joe Biden wanting to give commit $55 billion to these African nations, and so he made a comment on his post and a few other people. But one of the things that he had said, and this is what I was responding to when I told him this earlier, he said something about niggas will do anything, right? And I'm gonna pull the comment up so I can read it. You know what I mean? And not take it out of context. Or when he comes on, he can read it himself or say exactly what he said. And so I was like, he said niggas will do anything to get some of that reparations money, right? And I was saying, bro, like, because I took offense to that, right? It's a generalized term, right? He didn't say the Moorish niggas or them fucking pretendians out there will say and do anything to try to grift off of the valid reparations movement of the people, particularly these American freedmen who those families are actually owed for what their families had to endure for generations. So he just made the general statement about niggas will do anything to try to get money from the government, basically, right? I'm paraphrasing, but in essence, that's what it was being said. So I'm paraphrasing, but in essence, that's what it was being said. So I'm paraphrasing, but in essence, that's what it was being said. So I'm paraphrasing, but in essence, that's what it was being said. So I said, yo, bro, that's offensive, right? I was like, that's offensive because we're not just doing anything. We're doing some very specific work with regard to the justice that's owed to our people for the last 150 years or so, right? So that's what I told him in essence. So we had a conversation about it on Instagram, his Instagram live, and he wound up getting cut off. So I asked him if he would come here so we can actually flesh the thing out a little bit better.
Yeah. Hopefully the brother will come through because there's some things that I would like to build on. All right, so we got the brother Turtle Gang in the building. First and foremost, peace, bro.
Peace.
I think you okay, you good.
Peace.
Indeed,
What's good, my brother?
Chilling. Okay, so yeah, okay, it's the God. Okay, bro.
Oh yeah.
I ain't realized it was your platform. Okay.
Oh yeah, man. This be the power right here.
Okay, so I know who I'm talking to now. You know what I mean? Good.
That's right.
I'm glad. So yeah.
All right. So I think Ali, I think it'd be better if you lead into this discussion.
Yeah.
So we
all right. I was
flesh
kind of
this out.
breaking down what kind of triggered the conversation earlier, and I was letting them know that it wasn't actually the video because I didn't watch the video. As soon as I seen Fox's logo on it, I was like, I don't need to watch it because I already know how Fox gets down with regard to us. Anything dealing with us, we already know what the slant is going to be coming from them. So I didn't even watch it, but it was the comment that you made, and we talked about it earlier. I was responding to the comment that you made when you said that niggas would do anything for money. I'm just paraphrasing. You can contextualize it how you want. But it's like niggas do anything to get this money from the government. And I'm like, I took offense to that because I'm like, the true reparationists are not just doing anything, and they're definitely not doing anything for no good reason. They're doing a lot of things that are very pertinent to the particular plight that our families were forced to endure for several generations. And so I just was like, man, I wish people would just stop talking about what we're doing with that kind of negative energy. Now, it was like I was just telling Naheem, it would have been different if he said them fucking Moors out there, them fez head niggas, them niggas that do or say any old kind of crackpot shit, or them pretending niggas out there with that fake Indian babble. They'll say anything to try to grift off of what these people are doing, which is a legitimate thing, right? So, but it wasn't put that way. So that's why I was like, damn, man, it's always these generalizations about what we're doing, and I just, it's just, to me was offensive. But you could break it down.
No, and bro, and because like I said, my thing is I'm not gonna take anybody's space, bro. Like I don't think we should take space for anybody to operate, and you know what I mean. So I apologize if that offended you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to curb your lane, take your lane from you, throw shade on your lane. So I'm gonna tell you exactly what I saw when I saw that video. When I first saw that video, right? I'm like, yo, what the fuck? This can't be real, right? So I'm a creative thinker. I'm creative, bro. So I represented it in a manner where anybody watching it is not going to take it serious. That's why I put the cartoon and animation, right? To say, okay, yeah, this is out here, but is this even a real conversation, right? Then I was truthfully, when I seen it, I'm like, oh, hold up. So they're giving money to Africa first before actual people? I was a little offended by that. You know what I'm saying? So
we are too, believe it.
The way my mind works, bro, I'm very satirical. You know what I'm saying? It's never what you think it is, straight up. It's never the low-hanging fruit, not with my mind. See what I'm saying? So when I'm saying niggas will do anything, bro, I would never refer to y'all as niggas doing anything. See what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
I'm talking about is the niggas that was there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
The niggas I'm talking about is the niggas that ain't got boots on the ground. As soon as I find out who I'm talking to, and I know y'all, I'm not referring to y'all as niggas that do anything for anything. Nah, I don't see y'all as that. But when I'm having that conversation, when I'm saying this, bro, if you ever hear me say niggas will do anything for change in this reparation, I ain't talking about y'all. I ain't talking about the ones putting in work. I'm talking about the ones that get up there and misrepresent what y'all doing. Word is bond on everything. I stand on that. See what I'm saying? And then it makes it look like I don't support what y'all doing. I don't support what them niggas is doing, stepping on y'all shit.
Absolutely. Right? I agree with you 100%.
Now that I can have the conversation with the real people who are doing the real work, it's a different me, because that shit you see is me sitting on these fraud niggas, not y'all. I know the difference, like with Moors. I know a dirty Moor from a real Moor. You know what I mean? And when I say that, I'm just saying the ones that stay within the truth, what they stand on, and don't mix, cut the dough. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but yo, bro, we are who we are. We say things reckless, but intellectually, I know when you talking. When a nigga say pretend to Indian, I know a nigga ain't talking about me. It don't even enter my mind, and they could put my name in the sentence. Right. I know they're not talking about me. See what I'm saying?
Well, I seen pictures of your family, so I know I can look at your family and see what it is. They're Lenape, right? I can see it. Like that's the thing. A lot of these people are jokers, right? And we keep trying to tell them that, but you and your other partner, I forget his name. What's your yeah. He be on your platform with you.
Yeah.
But y'all are different because y'all show and prove what your family really is. These other dudes are just they pulling up pictures of Omex and pictures of the Bonaparte murals and stuff like that, and because it's dark-skinned people. Yeah, exactly. So that's what it is, man. And you know, that's why we're calling them pretenders. They don't. And then when they come down to it, come to find out the ancestors was really just slaves of the fucking Choctaw or something like that. You know what I mean?
I ask difficult questions because, like, brothers like you, I ask you a difficult question, y'all can answer it. It's not difficult, right? But these other people, I ask them these questions and it causes problems. See what I'm saying? Like, bro, like
Dane Calloway.
Yeah, none of them people like me, bro. You know that, right? You know, none of them abos like me, bro. You understand that, right? I'm more aligned with y'all than you know what I'm saying?
I know he was having issues with Dane Calloway. I know he was on some bullshit with you.
Yeah, he not an issue. He and it's not to disrespect women, but he feminine energy dealing with real people energy. And he bro, he could never stand before me and my people, bro. It's not even close. It's like
Let me ask you a question about this other brother named Legendary Chief Top Cats. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, and I can speak on Chief Top Cats. I speak on him.
So what's the relationship like? Has he been able to show and prove what because we've looked up all of his claims and found him to be an absolute 100% fraud?
Well, now I'm familiar with what y'all did when y'all called up those other people who carry the same name as his people. Like, I'm gonna tell you where your error is. That's like calling another Williams family to validate it for Williams is a Williams. See what I'm saying? That's not how traditional culture, that's not how the setup was. See what I'm saying? So they never would have said, yeah, we know them people. See what I'm saying? Like, but that's neither here nor there. I'm gonna tell you what I know about Top Cat. From what I see and understand about him, he is accurate about his lineage. He know what he talking about his lineage. Do I agree with how he perceives or presents history? No, not with anybody. But in terms of him saying who he is, I believe him to be authentically, absolutely a descendant of those actual people. I believe that. Now,
okay,
how
so the Kawasaki or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I spoke with one of the representatives, right? So you said that's like calling the person that I spoke to broke.
Let me explain it to you.
The whole history. No, I want you to, but he broke the whole history down to me, and broke down how there was intermarriage, right?
Yeah.
So when you're running around saying that you are a chief or that your great grandmother was a chief, then regardless if this is like a different sect of the Williams family, they should still be able to say, yes, we are familiar with the grandmother by the name of whatever who is also a chief.
Not at all. That's not, see, that's you saying that because you don't know how tribal custom and like you don't understand, like, because people say I'm Cherokee, right? That's just a general name. It's thousands of Cherokees and they're not all related. So you can't go to one Cherokee. And I'm gonna give you an example because I'm gonna pull from my shit, right? Everybody knows Lenape. You know the Lenape, right? All right. You know that they're also called the Delaware, right?
That's right. Delaware Moors.
Alleged Moors.
Not the Moors, not the Delaware Moors.
I said alleged Moors.
No. I'm gonna show you how you're conflating it. There's a group of Lenape.
That's right.
Most notably Chief Tammany. You heard of Chief Tammany, right? Chief Tammany.
I have it.
All right. So that's the group that's in Philadelphia.
Right.
Right. Those people are Unami people. They're Lenape, but they're Unami. They speak a different dialogue than my branch. They have a separate history, separate treaties, separate agreements. In the French and Indian War, they sided with the French. During the French and Indian War, we sided with the British. During the Revolution, they sided with the colonists. During the Revolutionary War, we sided with the British. Right? We're both Lenape. They signed a deal with the United States government, Treaty of Fort Pitt, right? The Continental Army defeated the British Army, who we were allied with because we had treaties with Britain to do trade. So when the Continental Army defeated Britain, it was also the Wunamis defeating the Muncies. I'm a Muncie. They Wunami. So in history books, the Muncies get written out of history and we're called Negroes. The Wunamis get a reservation and they're called the Delaware now. So when you hear the story of the Delaware, they're telling their story. They're not speaking for the Muncies because if they told the truth, you know that they betrayed us for a little piece of land out in Oklahoma. So when you anytime you call up a federally recognized tribe, you're calling up a subsidiary of the federal government. Why would you go to them for truth?
Okay, definitely. So I wanted you to get that out because I was contacted by somebody that knows this guy personally. And they sent me all his information and basically showed that this guy was a fraud, that he was not of any of these tribes. He's one of us. So I don't know, some people may believe his history, and I got that stuff. I just never just, I'm not the type. Hold on, bro. I don't want to get into people's Fed cases and all of these type of things, but like I got the messages and I got the pictures, I got the images, et cetera. So I know for a fact that dude is not no Kushada, no Alabama Kushada, no none of that, because that's what he says that he is. I know that for a fact. So
I don't like me, and I think that if we all practice this, I can't speak on another man's family, even if another person send me documents.
He speaks on my family.
I know, so that's wrong. He's wrong.
I can technically speak on him,
his
family, the fake tribe he made up or claimed to be a part of, et cetera, et cetera.
We're trying to bring in a new era, right? A new, like the great law of peace, bro. The gods say peace to each other because we come in peace, right? And what's the mainstay of the 5%? It's the lessons, right? It ain't no one individual, it's the lessons that unite us, right? So we can go anywhere with those lessons, and if our shit is right and exact, we can stand in any hood with the gods. That's how it's set up, right?
Yeah. When you look at go ahead.
That's what the great law of peace is. It's the same thing. It's the mathematics. It ain't one individual. So what I'm saying is we all got to get back to the mathematics that allow us to understand these things. And even when a man, like, he wronged you by talking about your family, but guess what? The mathematics say, regardless if he wrong, you don't got to descend into that shit.
All right. So being that I was born into
I know you know.
I definitely know what you're talking about. But there was a statement that Father-Allah made that said, I'm not anti-white or pro-black.
Yeah.
And people were confused about that statement. I shared an article earlier on that from Moguldom. They did an excellent job, covering that piece as well. Shout out to Moguldom. I love the work y'all put in.
Shout out to Moguldom, yeah.
But my pops explained that to me some years back. And what Father-Allah was saying is, if a man is good, regardless of his skin tone, it does not necessarily make him a devil. Even if he is a white man, if he's doing good and he lives his life righteously, then he's good, point blank, period. Absolutely. And he can be viewed as a God. He can be viewed as God. And if a black man who is God spends most of his life and his time doing devilishment, then you view him in the same standard that you would view a person that you would call a devil. So I call him the devil. I'm talking about Top Black. I'm talking about all of those people that make these claims. So I was born and raised in it, so I could speak to it, just a little bit clearer in that regard. And in the lessons, it speaks about going to visit the holy city of Mecca and how the Muslims will receive a pin on their lapel for taking 4 devils' heads. So I'm just saying, the lessons speak about taking heads off devils, and we follow.
That's what we do.
If we're following the teachings and the logic of Father-Allah, then you got to call a devil a devil. It don't matter if you come in peace, because you can come in peace. But what happens when the devil tries to keep encroaching? You got to take his head. That's what I was taught as a 5%.
True indeed. And we ran motherfuckers whose math wasn't right and exact off the block. You couldn't come out. You can't be out in the hood if the math ain't right. So the real issue is we let these niggas on the block.
That's what I've been saying.
That's the real issue.
Isn't that what I've been saying? Like, we let too many of these niggas get too close to us when they shouldn't have been.
Yep. I know the God because I met the God in real life on 125. I've been around the God in real life. See what I'm saying? Not these people who just tapping in like this. I had to go be around that energy to get respect from niggas. Feel me? Like, that's just what it was. They don't come from that. That's why I keep telling people about the nation and where we come from, the generation I come from. You got to show and prove. We don't, you can't get that off. Show and prove. And that's that. You know what I'm saying? So
that's what we was asking. We was just asking for proof. This dude started talking about the Spanish came and conquered the people. What was he calling them?
Man, down in Florida. See, that's the thing. When he initially started talking to us, I really don't want to talk about him because that's not why we have Brother Turtle come on.
I don't talk about him. I got no issue with him.
I just wanted to see what your thoughts was on some of these people in this space that have made a lot of these claims, because we see them for the frauds that they are, and we call them for it, and we not going to stop calling them for it, calling them on it at all.
Yeah, there was a tribe in Florida. I'm trying to remember the tribe. He was at first he was talking about them. Then he more recently started talking about the Koasati. But the thing about it is, you know, he's never gotten into the various bands the way you're talking about, like, oh, there's different bands of these people. He didn't get into that and say, well, my people are this band of Koasati or Koshada, with, you know, that it's not affiliated with the ones that you guys are looking at. He didn't say that. He just says he's Koasati. That's it. Use the general term,
don't know everything.
And that was it.
And that's what I've learned. Like, bro, we deal with the Lenape in Canada because there's no political issues, right? The ones out in Oklahoma don't like us because if they ever want to come back here to where they can, you know, the viable land, the East Coast, you know what I mean? Ain't nobody building no casinos and stuff in Oklahoma. So they got visions of coming back east. But they can't come back east because we got relationships with the state, the institutions. See what I'm saying? So they got to convince them people we fake, right? But we got relationships with the Muncie. Because see, the Muncie from here that left, they didn't go to Oklahoma. They went to Canada.
There it is. My bad. Tamiqua.
So we got relationships with the ones in Canada. See what I'm saying? So, like I said, all come back to me, come to building relationships. You know what I mean? If you saying you these people, you're going to have a relationship with somebody. See what I'm saying? So I say give people a period of time. Like any business, take you a couple years to get official. So I say they come in talking about they this. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 years to see if your people come get you. If your people don't come get you, you probably not that. So I say give people a little bit of grace period. Feel me?
No doubt. No doubt. So let's get off that, because I don't really even want to. I don't like talking about him or even Dane Calloway. The only reason we mentioned Dane is because of his influence, and it's just very unfortunate the way that he does what he does, and so many people actually are influenced by what he says. And so I think that for us, I mean, you know, we really are, you know, reparationists, man. It's not even a thing of, our problem is this, right? And I was trying to say this earlier on the live. We are trying to approach it from the perspective of it being about ancestry, meaning those people who are connected to those who were enslaved in this country and faced subsequent Jim Crow, redlining, racial terrorism, towns being burnt down, towns being flooded out, losing their farms, losing their property, all of that kind of stuff like that, voting rights being abrogated, all of that kind of stuff. And so that's the things, those are the things that we're looking at for a specific set of families. We're not looking even at trying to include all quote unquote Black people in the United States, because we already know that there are certain population of Black people, quote unquote, in this country who are of immigrant ancestry. And so when we're dealing with white supremacists or people who are we call anti-reparationists, in many instances, they raise the question of, well, who would the eligible beneficiaries be? Black people, or, you know, trying to do race-based legislation is unconstitutional. So we understand that, which is why I was saying we use the status of freedmen, because that's the status of the people changed from slave to freed men and women with the 13th Amendment from a national perspective. And when that happened, there were certain things that were put in place by this government. There were certain promises and commitments made that some of them got fulfilled, and then some things were not. Some of the things that did get fulfilled got reneged upon, like certain acres of land. And we talked about that earlier, about the land in the Southeast region. Now, for us, part of what it is that we promote is what we call a Back South strategy. And that's not just about the land, but it's also a political strategy in the sense of trying to maximize our numbers in certain areas in order to gain a political or numerical power base. So for us, it's about the Southeast region for the most part. It's not everybody, but this is just something that we promote. And so the land that we're talking about in many instances is the land in those states like South Carolina and Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama, those places like that where they were enslaved on various plantations. And I know you had an issue with that. If you want, you can speak on that.
Oh, so let me just say this. So when we were talking earlier, I'm gonna be real with you, right? Yeah, I could be an asshole, bro. So we talking earlier. I'm not knowing I'm talking to somebody that got some real, you know, I'm thinking I'm talking to one of these weirdos, bro. You know what I'm saying? In the moment, okay? So a lot of things I was saying to you, I was being antagonistic. I was just trying to devil's advocate it, you know what I mean? But we having a real conversation. So I'm gonna let you know, like, bro, like you could, like, I'm really here to learn what it is y'all doing, because I really don't have no problem with the rep. I understand it. I just understand that it's nuanced. And so it's like, how do we really get around that? And then there's a few questions that I would like to at least present, so the people who are at the forefront of this have that in mind. You know what I'm saying? Like I talk about, when we talk about land, right? Long before this land was anybody's property that they bought, right? We come from a concept where we don't own the land owns us. And part of healing this is returning the people to their land. So I can understand that if in the 1800s, some individuals bought some land from the United States government or from another person, but the real issue that needs to be rectified is how they even came into possession of that land to even offer it to the people. Now, what I'm saying is, see, as natives, we fight for the land, and whoever on the land gonna benefit. So from a native perspective, it's not like if y'all get it, we're gonna be mad because y'all got anything. I'm not even trying to speak for everybody. I'm just saying within the culture, it's like we have something called land acknowledgement, right? So for years and years and years in Harlem, they having lectures, they on 125th Street, they doing all these things, evoking all the ancestors from all over the world, but they not even acknowledging the indigenous people who died right here. That's wrong. So what I'm saying is, spiritually, we need, even if it's just an acknowledgement that this land once belonged to a nation of people who lost it violently before any of these transactions happened. That's all. See what I'm saying? So when the time comes that this conversation has to be had, you're aware of it. See what I'm saying? Like, you can get everything you want and get your land back in South Carolina, but what happens now when the tribe now wants to rectify the wrongs that have been done to them, and you find yourself on land that was stolen from them? Do you dig in and say, no, this is my land now? How do we work together to rectify that? Because the tribe is not going to say move out. We just want you to acknowledge this land that you're on at one time belonged to another people who went through a Holocaust. See what I'm saying? That's it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what I was saying in response to that was this, and this is why I brought up the 5 civilized tribes who occupied a lot of that land in those particular areas that we're talking about. Those folks, like I said, were people who sided with the Confederacy.
Yes.
They not only sided with the Confederacy, they enslaved members of our families, right? And they fought against the Union in order to try to keep that particular institution. Even when they lost the war, the United States had to make them free the people that they had enslaved. Mm-hmm. Once they freed the people they had enslaved, they really didn't even want to allow them to have the rights of citizenship within those tribes. Still fighting to this day in many instances about that. So my thing is, these people went to war against the United States. In that war, they lost. They picked a side. They fought on the losing side, and they lost. I just can't bring myself to really to be concerned about them when they took such an adverse position to what we would have deemed as justice, particularly in the really basic sense of whether or not a human being has the right to property in another human being.
Okay, so, and that's all valid, but this is what I need people to understand, because this is what happens. It's obvious people don't know real history, right? It's obvious because people talk about these tribes, the 5 civilized tribes. One minute they're $5 Indians. Next minute they're our people. Why do y'all talk about the $5 tribes like they are in alignment with the rest of us who were written out of history? They are actually working just as hard against us, even harder than they are against y'all. Do y'all understand that? Moringa said, y'all people, you don't understand what you're talking about. The 5 civilized tribes are tribes that were contracted by George Washington to do their bidding. They betrayed other nations. The Cherokees that are part of the Cherokee Nation are the families that sided with the Europeans. They're not all the Cherokees. So when you say y'all people's own slaves, so did black people in America. Does that condemn every black person? See, this is what I mean. There's so much ignorance in here that we can't have a real conversation because we're talking about real issues and people are blurring them by saying this blanket, y'all own this. As many black people owned slaves during
Well,
that time.
it wasn't many black people. It was a handful, and most of those people owned their own family members so that they would not be sold to
and that's
other.
a nice way to put it. But there's also
no, that's the historical way to put it. Because we're not the people you're talking about that deal with bad history. We deal with actual history.
See how you get
Because I don't want you to think that you could come up here and just say anything and you're not going to get challenged, bro. We're not doing that. Not on this platform.
Listen, y'all not listening. Indians, listen, please listen.
We're listening, bro. We're listening.
So, bro, listen.
Nah, because you just want to talk.
No,
and you don't want to listen. You don't want to listen.
Bro,
you just want to talk, bro. All right, you can share what you're gonna share, but when you say something problematic, you're gonna receive some pushback because we know history.
I'm being accused of being the group of Indians that enslaved people. I'm trying to tell you.
I never said that. That's not what I said.
You have a person in here that is injecting that. I'm speaking to that. You understand? Which is why we can't get past this. What I'm saying is people keep saying the those nations were nations of traders. Please don't judge all the tribes by what those people did. Okay? Those same people betrayed people like me because I am what? I'm part African as well. So stop acting like I'm something outside of every bit of reparations that you're fighting for. My people would be entitled to as well. Right. So I'm not fighting. I'm trying to have a good understanding, and I'm trying to get people to understand that just like I might have misconceptions of what y'all are doing, people definitely have misconceptions of who the Eastern Woodland Indians are as opposed to the 5 civilized tribes are. And they keep trying to make us responsible for that history. They betrayed us. Yes. So
that's wrong. And that's not our position.
I know, but
that's not our position.
No, but when you're talking about like when I say that, I want you to like at least acknowledge. I'm not talking about acknowledging the 5 civilized tribes. No, they're traitors. They're not honorable. What all I'm saying is that the same way you had all these groups in Harlem, the conscious community, praising every other indigenous community everywhere on the planet, but not even mentioning the fact that they're standing in Muscootin, which is the Lenape word for Harlem. I just think that's a problem. So all we ask is that just acknowledge it. Just like you would go anywhere and acknowledge the ancestors of that land. That's it. See what I'm saying? No, and not saying acknowledge those people who stole and had slaves. We're not saying acknowledge them. Those are traitors. We're talking about the spirits of the land. Like it's a different concept. It's not nothing against nobody. It's talking about a spiritual way. That's it. See what I'm saying? I'm not having the conversation that you think I was having with you earlier. I'm not trying to be antagonistic or against you. I'm just trying to help shed some of the misbeliefs that we both have.
So I don't know. I can't read that. What is it? Our job is to push our history, not others. And that's a fact, because here's what's interesting, right? In many instances, just what you're talking about, blacks do that, right? They try to include Native Americans in what they do. One of the things that I've seen from is somebody, if anybody has this particular tweet from this woman, drop it, drop it, a link for it or whatever. But there was a Native American woman who said something very interesting. I don't even know which tribe she's from, but she was on Twitter and people were talking about Native Americans with regard to reparations for Black Americans. Oh, we got to include Native Americans. The woman said, I wish y'all would stop bringing Native Americans up in y'all's reparations fight. We have nothing to do with y'all fight. So now the very people who are being accused of not considering these people, who actually do in many instances consider Native Americans, this BIPOC and all of these different things that these people have come up with and are pushing. There are people or elements within various Native American groups that don't want to be involved in it because they don't see our plight as their plight. They have their own issues. They have their own governments who can speak on behalf of their people. They don't need us to be advocates for them. They have actual nation-to-nation relationships with the United States. So we're advocating for ourselves. We're advocating for our families, the things that we need and that we know is owed to us from the actual labor that was put in by our families that not even the Indians put in. Okay, the work that our families did made this place into a world superpower, not what the Indians did, our families. And so the fact of the matter is to have someone steal your family's labor like that and not have them compensated to the point where they coming out of slavery into poverty and racial terrorism and have to have their children inherit that stuff for generation upon generation to the point where they are a bottom caste in this country. That's something that we have the right, like I said earlier, to petition this government, who we've been forced to pay taxes to, for redress of our specific grievances. We don't have to advocate on behalf of anybody else, right? And so, and I also asked you, if you remember, what Native American group do you know of has a problem with what it is that we're talking about, even land acquisition? Which one of them is complaining or has made any kind of official complaint about Black people acquiring land in southern regions of the United States? Who's ever complained about that?
I don't know who is complaining.
That's what I'm saying. So when you bring up the point, and I'm bringing that up because when you bring up the point about acknowledging that there were people there before the Europeans even got the land to transfer the land over when it became abandoned lands during the Civil War.
It wasn't abandoned.
I'm saying
that's what the Europeans tell you. It wasn't abandoned.
No, when they saying abandoned, they're talking about abandoned by the former Confederates who were occupying the land before the Civil War. During the Civil War, they fled because they were in the middle of a war. Yeah. So those abandoned lands, they were trying to reallocate that land to various freedmen families in the South. Some of them got some of that land. Some of them were able to keep it. The majority of them had that land taken back when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. So the land that was granted to them, they lost. The land that they wound up being able to purchase got stolen from them. At a certain point after the Civil War, our families had acquired 250,000 farms. Today, we're down to about 35,000 farms. So we lost over 210,000 farms between then and now.
Okay. So
that's all I'm talking about. And I'm saying that if there are Native Americans who have a problem with land grants for Black Americans in the South, who have a problem with land acquisition from us, none of them have said anything about it.
Nobody. I never suggested anybody. All I'm saying is like, all acknowledgement mean it just means saying like you give an ashe and move on. I'm not saying nothing more than that, but this is what I want to speak to, because I don't think people understand when I'm like, you're thinking nations, right? Indian nations. I'm not speaking for Indian nations, right? I'm speaking about those of us who are absolutely of African descent as well as Native descent, right? Who went through the exact same things that you are describing, right? I don't know why people think we didn't have the same experience. My people were all labeled Negro and misclassified and everything. We made absolute contributions. I will read you from my family book. Peter Rock is my fourth-time great-grandfather. Peter Rock's property was a station for the Underground Railroad. Runaway slaves hid in his cornfields by day and were moved by night to Christ Church and Quaker Church, right? So we participated, we helped free, it's documented in state record that we helped free over 10,000 slaves. We built some of the first buildings. Like, we are part of the foundation of our communities. We're not separating ourselves from that. And because we're Native, it doesn't separate us from that. We were all classified as Negro. We were some of the first people with our status is taken from us.
All right, I want to talk about that for a minute, brother. I want to talk about the reclassification part of, and I assume you're speaking about Walter Plecker.
Before Walter Plecker, long before Walter Plecker.
So, okay, give me an example. Give me an example.
All right, so I'm gonna read something to you.
All right.
All right. So this is documents.
I'm glad you're breaking that down, because that'll help dispel some falsehoods, because people are blaming Walter Plecker for everything reclassification.
No. So look. So here, this is an article. It's called "Why is New?" And it's all online. It's called "Why is New Jersey's Commission on Indian Affairs Committing Historical Genocide?" Okay, that's what the article's about. This article is literally about my literal tribe, right? So it says the story begins in 1669. So we're going back to 1669, but I'm gonna take you up further, right? So it says the first major migration took place in 1711 to 1713, when racism and religious intolerance in Georgia and Virginia drove the Kiowa Cherokee to New Jersey. My Cherokee side of my family, who are the Richardsons, migrated up here in the 1700s because they were being misclassified as Negro then. Okay,
right.
And they migrated.
How did they get how did they get that last name Richardson? The Cherokee.
Richardson?
Yes.
Because, okay, so you're gonna love this. So the first, let's go back to Gouldstown. Gouldstown. I know Chief Gould is a personal friend of mine. So you're gonna love this, Lord Abba. So companies like the Dutch Company, Virginia Company, they were companies, right? They were not Dutch people. At the time, now you remember, the Netherlands was under control of what at one point? Iberia, the Moors, right? Right? You remember that?
No, I don't. The Netherlands? No, I'm not. I don't recall that.
Okay, so the Netherlands is a part of, it's right above Spain, and it was
under.
under.
I know where the Netherlands are, but I don't recall it being under Moorish control.
Yeah, under what point it was under Spanish rule, under Spanish control, right? The people were fleeing up there, and they were becoming Protestants. Those are some of the same people that migrated that came to the Americas, working for like the Dutch company and places like that. Some of the first settlers in New Amsterdam were of African Moorish descent. The first inhabitant of Manhattan, the first non-indigenous inhabitant of Manhattan, was a man by the name of Rodriguez. He was described as a black Dutchman. He got kicked off the ship by the captain. I can send you all the documents.
Was he from Santo Domingo or something like that?
No, they were with the Dutch company. Right?
Okay.
The Dutch company brought 30 families over here to settle in what we call New York, but it was New Amsterdam at the time. They settled in Lower Manhattan, and they settled in what would be Albany, right? Because of their ports. They're great spots for ports, for shipping. So 18 families settled in Lower Manhattan, 12 in Albany. Of those 18 families in Manhattan, they spoke 12 different dialects, African dialects, Spanish dialects. It was a mishmash of people of color who were being brought over here. They were brought here to intermingle with the population. You understand? When you set up a business, if you target, you go into the hood, right? You're going to send people to set the store up, and you're going to send management, and you're going to hire people from the community to work for you. That's what was going on. So those first groups of people that were coming here were people of color, and they were interacting with the Indians because that was the play. Those people intermarried. General Stuyvesant, Bedford Stuyvesant, he had 8 soldiers that he employed. When they retired, that was the term they used after the contract was up. When they retired, they went to what they call Bergen. That's Bergen County. They settled in Bergen County and opened up new trading posts because that's what they were doing.
I'm in Bergen County right now.
Those men, all 8 men, were of Moorish ancestry. I'm telling you that families like mine, we have these names because, like, we consider ourselves first lineage of the Lenape. We are the first people that intermarried with the Lenape. My family is a product of that. That's why when the tribes left, we stayed, because our grandmothers would have been married to somebody who was established to the colonial business. I can take you to all these families out here in Jersey. I can take you to these little families now. We all know who we are. We all are considered Indians, right? But our ancestors going back years were some of the first families that intermarried with these European settlers, many of whom were of Moorish ancestry. They were Dutch, they were different, but we're thinking that the general people think that people from Europe were all white, and they weren't. And that's just the truth.
Yeah, that's
so
just not true.
What I'm saying to you is that families like mine who have these long histories, we have them because we tied in with people who kept their history. See what I'm saying? Whereas the other, see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is we are a part of everything. My grandfathers were some of the first freeholders in New Jersey. See what I'm saying? Like, we literally are extensions of the people who helped build the country.
All right.
Just
so
like you are. Just like you are.
I have another question because there's a bunch of questions in the chat, and I'm gonna pull one up in particular because there's some things that I'm hearing that's not matching up with what I know historically. But okay. I got a question specifically. What year did because you said the reclassification happened before Walter Plecker? What year?
I just told you 1711.
1711.
Yeah, I'm reading it. I'm literally reading it out of here. I have it on my documentary. It shows you the migration started in 1711 because of racism and religious intolerance. On paper, they were classifying the Kituwa Cherokee as Negro and stripping them of their rights. So they came to New Jersey. Y'all not gonna know this information because you're not looking at the Indian information.
I've read that before.
Yeah, look, so I want to bring up something, and I want to
hold up. Listen.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so it culminated in 1924 with the Racial Integrity Act. That was the culmination, but these practices have been going on since 1711. 5 treaties from 1768 to 1777 in Virginia and elsewhere contributed to more migrations since they ceded all the land to the colonists. This is what they would do. They would tell you, the state would say, the federal government would say, you can stay, but you can't keep your status as Indian, but you can stay and keep your property. Then the state would say, well, if you stay, you have to be labeled Negro, and Negroes can't own property. You see? So the federal government saying you can stay and keep your property, but the state saying if you stay, you can't, you got to be Negro, and by law, Negro can't own property. That's those are the laws that was passing, which was making people migrate out. This is why half of my family came to New Jersey. Now, if we want to talk about Richardson, the etymological term of Richardson has to do with landowners.
All right, hold on, because I want to stay on this. So what I have pulled up right now is called virtual Jamestown, because like I said, there's certain things that I'm hearing.
I'm not saying nothing about Jamestown. I ain't got nothing to do with Jamestown.
I know, but when you're making a broad claim,
I did make a broad claim. No, see, you can't do that. I did not say broad claim. Pardon me, bro. I said Keetoowah Cherokee. I told you where they migrated from. I told you what years. That's not a broad claim.
Okay,
please.
Okay,
let's keep it a buck. You know that's not.
But you did say earlier when I asked about the reclassification.
And I was speaking for my people exactly, which is why I brought my book out, bro. Come on, bro. We can do this with other people. You know that. You know I speak.
No, look, I'm just trying to get to the truth, because these claims are being
I just
made
told you the truth.
broadly.
It's not a claim.
I got you. I want to read this real quick, and then we'll flush it. We'll flush it out.
Fact.
So this is March of 1655, Act 1, an introduction to the acts concerning Indians. Now this is 1655.
Now,
this is
now
it.
Let me break this down.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. Let me read, and then you can respond. No, because you're trying to do steamroller.
Where is it?
No, brother. Let me read.
You're wrong, bro.
Let me read, brother.
Where is it? Please, bro. I'm not trying to cut you. Please,
brother. I'm reading it. I'm reading it.
Just tell me, bro. I can help you. Trust me. Just trust me, bro. I love you, my nigga. Trust me, please.
But
what territory? Please.
I just said it, brother. This is
Virginia.
Okay, now let me tell you why I'm asking you this.
No, I'm going to read first, and then we're going to get to that part.
No, you don't need to, please.
No, I do need to, because this is important. No, brother, I'm going to read.
Let me inform you of something, please, bro.
Bro, I'm going to read first.
Just let me inform you, please.
Brother, I'm going to read. Hold on, bro. Hold on. This is BTP, bro. This is BTP. I'm going to read first, and then we're going to get to your claims, and we can finish fleshing this thing out. March 1655, 6, Act 1, an introduction to the acts concerning Indians. Now, this is 1655. Colonial legislators created a distinction between Native Americans and Africans in this statute. And when they say Africans, of course, they mean the black people that either came over here or were brought over here on slave ships. It reads, if the Indians shall bring in any children as gauges of their good and quiet intentions to us and amity with us, then the parents of such children shall choose the persons to whom the care of such children shall be entrusted, and the country by us, their representatives, do engage that we will not use them as slaves, but do their best to bring them up in Christianity, civility, and the knowledge of necessary trades. And on the report of the commissioners of each respective country, that those under whose tuition they are do really intend the bettering of the children in these particulars, then a salary shall be allowed to such men as shall deserve and require it. So that's number one, when we're dealing with these statutes and we're dealing with the records that show how the Europeans were interacting with the Native Americans here, we see that, as it says, colonial legislators created a distinction between Native Americans and Africans in this statute. And here they're speaking about not letting the Native Americans become slaves and rearing them up as Christians. There's a long history of this. When we get to Plecker and we're talking about reclassifications in the early 1900s, we have to put that into context. First and foremost, they didn't like the fact, Plecker didn't like the fact, this is where we get this one drop rule from, that mixed breeds between quote unquote blacks and natives were trying to strictly pass as natives. And so Plecker devised the scheme that any of them would be considered Negro, because we want to view the pure Indian as the pure Indian and the Negro as the Negro. And if they mix, then we're going to call their children Negro as well. And the term is not Negro on the records. The term, from my research, only shows colored. So we got to do some clarification here. We're not going to do steamroller scholarship on BTP. We don't do that over here, bro. Now I'm gonna let you cook, but when I'm cooking, I got to cook, bro.
You gotta unmute.
Okay, that's peace. I respect you, Lord Abba, but I'm gonna show you, like, we gotta be honest. You talked about something that had nothing to do with the time frames I brought up. Like, that's information that you just wanted to hear yourself talk. Now, this is what I wanted to tell you. You were talking about what was going on in Virginia, right? At 1650, 1650, right? I'm talking about what was going on from 1711 to 1777, okay? So there's like, that's a why we're not even talking about the same territories, like specific territories. Now, also, I want you to understand is that the time frame in which you're speaking of, right? Because I am a combination of Cherokees from Georgia, not Virginia, right? So I know you like for people to think that what was going on in Virginia is the exact same thing that was going on in Georgia, but they were different states for very big reasons, right? So, and I also want you to understand, okay, then pardon me, I ain't gonna put words in your mouth. Also want you to understand that at the time in Virginia, those were English colonies. Where I'm at in New York, New Jersey, where you from, those were Dutch colonies. They had different rules. So the rules you're reading right now did not apply to my people up here because we were under a different rule. 1664 is when the English took over. That's when they changed laws. And I'm gonna tell you, in 1664, they changed laws and they started to institute a certain law, English law, that said that anybody who owned any type of large farms, you now had to import your workers from Barbados. Right? This is all the stuff that is going on because there's a difference. So prior to the English taking over New York, New Jersey, the rules were different. The rules were very different. What you were reading didn't apply to the territory I was in. That's why these tribes were migrating to New Jersey. Pardon me, to New Jersey. That's all I was trying to tell you before. Everything you was going into, people have to be more educated. Just like I don't know all the nuances of what y'all doing. Y'all don't know all the nuances of this Indian history. And this Indian history is as much Black folks' history as it is anybody else's, because we're a combination of the two. Like, okay. I don't know why people.
Yeah, but all right, no. Look. I'm not here to question anybody's Indian ancestry. I done said that like a million times.
No, I'm talking about people in your chat. They want to reduce the conversation to ad hominem stuff, and that's like, come on, man, we way better than that.
But this is just us. I'm just talking to you. I'm not even watching the chat. But what I'm saying is this: I've never questioned anybody's Indian ancestry. I've never done that, right? Because I feel like it's irrelevant. No.
I'm not questioning this brother's ancestry. I'm questioning certain things that I'm hearing.
Definitely not his, right? And I've said that on many occasions that I don't believe that Turtle is one of them pretendian people, right? I've seen images.
Google my family history.
Like, right. So now, but there are a lot of people, right? There are a lot of people who, and here's the interesting thing about it is, when I look at you, I can see certain things there from a phenotypic perspective that lets me know that there is some admixture. So when you're talking about your family being Native American, I can see in your phenotype why you would say something like that. There are certain people that are called Black people, and sometimes they're saying that they're American Indians, who, when I look at the names of the people that they're saying they're from, they have a specific look, right? And I know you're saying there are various bands of people, and there's, oftentimes I guess what they're trying to say is that there are these Black bands of these different tribes that these people come from, but nobody has any images of these people. There's no connection to any kind of tradition. There's no connection to any culture, any kind of customs. Everything has just been gone, right? So that's why I'm like, when I look at these people, I don't see what I see when I look at you.
Like Top Cat.
When we talk about ancestry and we challenge people to do genetic testing, they try to dismiss it as junk science. And the reason that we know that they're trying to dismiss it as junk science is because they're afraid of what the results are going to produce and what it's going to say to them. And so for me, it's like to get past all of this stuff, because everything ain't written down. Everybody's not going to find all of this stuff written down, whether it's there or not. One of the ways that we can tell what it is that we have in our ancestry for the African deniers, the slave trade deniers, the ones who claim that there's no African ancestry in their family, that they're pure American Indians, right? Because a lot of those running around too.
They're lying.
The genetic testing, what it does is it shows whether or not you share genetics with people in other regions of the planet. I'm not saying it's going to find a cousin or this or that. I'm saying that when you share genetics with people in West Africa, what that says is that you also share common ancestry. And that's not something that you can get around. The same way that those genetic tests can find cousins, actual cousins in the United States that you never knew anything about, though, and you know that you share common ancestry with those cousins you never knew anything about. The same thing applies with West Africans or Central Africans that you share genetics with. You have common ancestry there too. So what they need to do is knock off the BS, knock it off with this slave trade denial nonsense, knock off this nonsense about, oh, well, where are the slave ships and this and that and the other. Where I always tell them, when you ask me where the slave ships are, I'm going to ask you, where's the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, where's the Mayflower? The fact of the matter is those Europeans are here. And unless you're trying to say that those Europeans are also indigenous to this land, they came here by boat. And they came
slave ships are just cargo ships. They got museums all over Europe with all the slave ships in Europe.
And these people came on the same boats that the Africans came on. I talk about the black conquistadors who actually came in the late 14, early 1500s with the Portuguese and the Spaniards. Some of them were slaves. Some of them came of their own accord, whatever the case is, but they were early colonists here along with these people. So don't try to act like our people didn't come here by way of the Atlantic Ocean. Our ancestors did come here by way of the Atlantic Ocean. These people just at a point where they want to ignore that part of the history.
Check this out. There were Africans that came here in the 1500s and they revolted. They revolted and they fled in South Carolina, and they settled in South Carolina in the 1500s. And by the time they came back here in the 1600s, them Africans had been fully matriculated into the culture, into the people. Like this is information that we know, that indigenous nations have this information. We know Africans was here long before Columbus. We know we've been interacting with them.
So why do they deny the African existence in their families?
Because the people you're talking to are not real people. They don't have the real history. Like them people are not. See, people keep confusing us with them. We are not them. I didn't learn about my native ancestry online. I learned about my native ancestry at home, being told not to talk about it. You understand? Like this I could show y'all newspapers from 1976 where my uncle died. And they're talking about one of the last of Lenape dies, and because the whole town knew who we were. You understand? Like this is not. I'm not one of them, and the people in the chat need to understand that. They say I can't speak the language.
Let me say
this is what the language. Now
hold on, bro. This is what the people are talking about in the chat, right?
And I appreciate you speaking. I appreciate you speaking the language, because a lot of these pretendians are cut completely off from the culture and the customs of the people they claim to belong to.
What the people are talking about is the fact that there was a conversation had with you and Ali earlier about reparations, right? And what they are expressing, because I'm not questioning your lineage. I haven't done that one time. We've been building or known each other for years. We built, somewhat back in the days when I was definitely on my Sonetta 125th Street stuff, et cetera, right? But there's some things that I heard historically that didn't line up with my research, right? But I'm a freeze on that for now, and I'm gonna let that. You just want to hear your.
Y'all have to understand. Research is research. The primary source is the people. The people still here. Go talk to the people. We got to stop that.
I got you.
The primary sources is here. Why don't y'all talk to the people if you want to know Indian history?
So what the people are expressing is that this is our concern, and that what we're fighting for has nothing to do with Native Americans. It has nothing to do with Lenape. No,
why do y'all think
that?
Because it doesn't. Let me explain why. I'm gonna tell you it from a legal perspective. I'm gonna tell you from a legal perspective why it doesn't matter. Right, the same way we're not concerned with Africans, even though we know and acknowledge African ancestry. Right, I'm gonna tell you why it doesn't matter. These terms, from the legal perspective, African, American Indian, Black, Negro, colored, these are terminologies that were used as racial classifications for various groups of people. According to the United States Supreme Court, race-based legislation is unconstitutional. This is something I mentioned earlier. So to get into the ethnic, because what we're really talking about is the ethnic ancestry of various families, which is all mixed up. We're not all the same. Like I can't, because you're Lenape doesn't mean that I'm Lenape. It doesn't mean that Naheem is Lenape or whatever the case is. Now, let me tell you what my DNA came back saying.
It's crazy.
The DNA came back saying.
Ramapo received it because they have elders that needed, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, don't watch that for a second, man. So the thing about it is my genetics came back saying that there was like 0.3 or 0.4% Native American ancestry. Now, that's what came back with my family. The large majority of what my thing said was West Africa, places like Mali, etc. So, but that doesn't matter. Even with me, my Malian ancestry doesn't matter in this reparations claim. That's why I said what it really comes down to when we're talking about who should be eligible and how to identify the eligible recipients. We're talking about the people who were emancipated from Negro chattel slavery in 1865 and their descendants. There was about 4 million of those people, and then they had families after that. If you can connect yourself to those 4 million people, regardless of what their ethnic background was, Yoruba, Lenape, Mercy, whatever the case is, that's who the eligible recipient should be. I don't care if you got Indian.
So check this out. People say I'm not eligible. Does anybody ever heard of Flemington, New Jersey? You heard of Flemington, New Jersey?
Nah, what is that, South Jersey?
Yeah, it's like West Jersey. Okay, so Flemington, New Jersey at one point in time was called the Fleming Indian Reservation. It was a reservation, I mean plantation, not a reservation, a plantation. Okay, my Indian ancestors were enslaved at Fleming Indian Reservation. Look it up now. I mean, Indian plantation. You can look it up now.
That still don't have nothing to do with us, brother.
But bro, listen, connected to what I'm saying. Those people, were they emancipated by the 13th Amendment in 1865? Were they?
They were in, listen, they were classified as Negro slaves.
Okay.
Yes, they were emancipated, everything.
By the 13th Amendment in 1865.
Everything, bro. We got declassified.
Okay, well then that's what matters.
Labeled as Negro. I don't know why people think, like, I have family members that look just like y'all. We don't all look like me. Like, see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why people think we didn't have that same experience. We got declassified.
Absolutely.
They treated us like Negroes just like anybody else.
But not all Indians went through that.
No. The Eastern Woodland Indians went through the same chattel slavery everybody else. I know where, listen, y'all not letting me finish. I know where my grandfather was enslaved. It's now Flemington, New Jersey. Samuel Fleming owned the plantation. It's now Flemington, New Jersey. I know where one of my grandmothers was enslaved. It was a farm that is now Brookdale University. We have our family gathering there every year because that's where our grandmother was enslaved. And she died there. I have ancestors that died in slavery. Like, what are we talking about?
Right,
and I know exactly who.
Right in Teaneck, New Jersey, there's an African, quote unquote, African burial ground.
We just stopped that from being dug up. We just stopped that. My tribe stopped that. My chief stopped Teaneck from digging that. So you bear witness to that. My chief stopped that. They was gonna dig that shit up.
But what I'm saying is this: just like African doesn't matter in this claim, neither does Indian, neither does Black, neither does colored, neither does mulatto. None of that stuff matters, right? Because what's going to happen is the same thing that happened to the Black farmers when they tried to get relief from the United States government. People argued reverse racism and that the legislation being based on race is unconstitutional, so we can't do that. It doesn't matter. This is what I'm saying. If you are half Black, half Muncie, half Cherokee, whatever, it don't matter.
I know that.
It doesn't matter.
I agree with you. Now let me read this, because this is from because people talk about genealogy. This is my family genealogy book. This is coming from public records, right? It says the majority of land originally purchased by the first two Peter Rocks. See, they're talking about people buying land, acquiring land, right? The majority of land originally purchased by the first two Peter Rocks was eventually lost to non-payment of taxes after death. These two recorded sales of property that take place at the Globe Hotel in Red Bank, New Jersey. The first took place on November 30th, 1894. Tax collector Essex White of Shrewsbury Township sold off several properties of African-American families bearing the name Richardson, Reevy, Rock, Ruffin, among others. The second sale of property took place December 30th, 1895. These two land sales stripped the future generations of Rock family members of the entitlement of heritage of hundreds of acres of prime New Jersey land that had been amassed by their ancestors, Peter Rock and his son, Peter. This is my family's history.
Excellent. Beautiful.
So why am I not entitled to it?
Nobody's questioning that. Right now, look, let me just go into this one more time. If your family members were reclassified as Negroes, Blacks, colors, and enslaved and fell under the institution of Negro chattel slavery and were emancipated in 1865 by the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and then lived to have to endure the badges and incidents of slavery as Negroes, Blacks, or colors up until this day, those are the people that we're talking about. I don't care about the ethnic background of the people because we are comprised of many, many different ethnic backgrounds. You can name a whole bunch of them. I can name some of the African ones. It's all mixed up along with some of the European ones in this country. That's not the point. The people who had to live the life of a Negro, or Black, or a colored, etc., are the people who are the targeted beneficiaries of any federal reparations program, rightly and justly.
Exactly.
Period. Now, who cares about anybody's ethnic background? Because that really don't matter. Because the Europeans didn't care about that when they was enslaving niggas.
That's why I'm here tonight, because I'm with you. And I want you to know that the conversation we had earlier was an antagonistic, sarcastic conversation. The real conversation is what we having now, right? So like, I don't feel like I'm not your enemy. I'm not working against you. I'm not nothing. Like I support what y'all do. Honestly, I'm getting a better understanding of what it is y'all do, and I respect it, right? Like I don't speak for no $5 Indian, no civilized nations. I speak for the Black Indians who were reclassified and went through the same thing that everyone else is complaining about. That's it. And in regards to the lady saying she's seen it was the Black movement, yeah, they brought attention to it, but they don't have the jurisdiction based on the law of the land. The Constitution says any treaty that predates the Constitution is law of the land. So those people had to reach out to the tribes that have jurisdiction. That's why. So it was a combination of that group that you were talking about, reaching out to the tribe and the chief putting the call in. That's how it works. That's how we work together. And people think that we're not working together with people. But in real life, we're actually doing things with organizations all throughout the state. And we don't.
What organization? Go ahead,
hold on. Because I'm sitting here and I'm being patient, right? Because the conversation is good, and I don't want to just appear to be adversarial. And I'm listening, right? He said I wasn't listening. I listen to everything. You said that earlier, right? And what you were saying in the beginning of this live stream is different than what you're saying now. This is why there were so many questions.
How was that?
Hold on, brother. This is why there were so many questions. And the main questions in the beginning coming from everyone in the chat was, so he wants us to fight for Indians or Indian reparations?
I never said that.
But with how it came off.
No, that's how y'all hear it.
Saying.
I apologize for y'all misconstruing the things I say.
No, no one misconstrued anything because Absolutely. I heard it. And we have, this is one of the smartest chats on YouTube.
I said acknowledge the land you're on. That's it. That's what I said.
When we first were talking earlier on Instagram, that's what I felt. I know you saying you were being antagonistic at the time, but that's what I took away from the conversation was that, yo, y'all need to get in line and support us and what we're doing because there's a hierarchy to this whole thing and y'all not respecting that. And so my thing was like, so you're saying that we should put a pause on our justice claim in order to support whatever these various Native Americans are doing. Everybody don't even want the same thing. I don't think all Native Americans are looking for the same things from the United States government. But because it was a general term the general phraseology that was being used, like us, the Native Americans, I'm like, well, that's a whole bunch of different people that got different claims against the United States or no claim at all. I don't know what these people are even looking for. So it just seemed like you were saying to me, we should wait until y'all do whatever it is that y'all doing before we start trying to push for justice. And so I think other people were hearing that in that same kind of way.
Well, my apologies if that's how it came across. That's not.
Well, it definitely came across that way. Well, there's no misconstruing of anything.
No, it's definitely a misconstruing because that's not what I said. If that's what I would have
misconstruing,
said, it's not on my part though.
Yeah, I can't. If it's coming out of your mouth,
your comprehension.
If it's coming out of your mouth, you can't. Then
I can only be held accountable for the words I say. That's it. I know
so
what language is.
Hold on. Now, hold on. Because I'm feeling like I'm getting disrespected on my platform, and I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying my best. And when I got a recap of the conversation that was held earlier, between the discussion between you and Ali, I felt disrespected after I got finished talking to Ali. What you're basically implying is that we're too stupid to understand the shit that you're saying. First and foremost, you're saying the bullshit that we got to try to guess that it's not what you're saying, but it got to be what you're saying because you're saying it in a way that only people of your intellectual capacity could understand. Ain't nobody disrespecting me on my platform. That's right. Ain't nobody disrespecting me, period. Platform and no platform. So you, like I said, this audience right here, these people that's in this audience right here are some of the most well-versed and well-read that you would ever come across. Point blank, period. This trying to overtalk me every single time that I talk because you're like, I know that debate tactic. It's called the steamroller tactic. And it's usually done by people who are wrong and trying to force a point. And I'm trying my best to be easy and let the conversation just go.
And let me point out one last time, and then I think we should let Ibrahim go in because we're already an hour and a half in. The wrong thing that's being said, that has been said by you as well as many other people, and it's not a whole lot because I like I said, I can't tell you about your family, so I can't argue with you about that.
So basically, they had no contentions with me. Let me tell you something. I'm only responsible for the things I say. not for what you comprehend. You can't make me responsible for how you interpret shit, how you feel about shit. None of their arguments, none of their points of contention had anything to do with anything that I stand for. Niggas just wanted to argue.